The flagpole hadn't mattered to anyone in years. The paint had flaked away, its once proud gleam dulled to a corroded gray, and the rope frayed like old veins. Kids at Carver Elementary ran past it without so much as a glance. But on a heavy October morning, under a sky the color of wet slate, a police K-9 named Rook planted his paws into the hard-packed dirt and refused to move. His bark cut through the empty playground like a blade, frantic, insistent, impossible to ignore. Sheriff Nathan Weller felt the hairs rise on his arms. Something wasn't right. Something was buried here. The morning bell at Carver Elementary had already rung when Sheriff Nathan Weller parked his cruiser beside the cracked basketball court. The building loomed in front of him, a squat 1950 structure of brick and faded murals, eagles, flags, a faded cartoon of children holding hands, their smiles chipped away by years of weather. The call had been strange. K-9 alert during a school safety sweep. Not unusual for Rook, the department's German shepherd, to react. But usually he went after backpacks, lockers, the kitchen pantry where teenagers tried to stash contraband, not the flagpole in the middle of the schoolyard. Deputy Carla Ruiz was waiting, her dark hair tied back, eyes sharp and restless. She leaned against the flagpole base, Rook at her side. The dog's chest heaved, lips peeled back from his teeth as he barked at the ground, claws raking the dirt. "He hasn't stopped," Carla said. Her voice was taut. 15 minutes. I even tried to pull him away. He lunges right back. Nathan squatted, resting a palm on the cold iron base of the pole. The dirt looked undisturbed, but Rook's claws had torn furrows into it. Dust clung to the dog's muzzle. "Drugs?" Nathan asked. Carla shook her head. "We swept twice. Nothing. No scent markers. He's reacting like something's here, alive or dead." The sheriff studied her. "Alive?" Her silence was answer enough. By noon, the school principal, Martha Klein, had appeared on the playground. She was a rigid woman in her 60s, hair sprayed into a stiff helmet, her lips pressed thin. "Sheriff," she said briskly, "I don't think this is necessary. The children are distracted. It's an old flagpole, that's all. Dogs bark. That doesn't mean you tear up school property." Rook barked again, lunging toward the soil until Carla held him back. Nathan straightened. "With respect, Mrs. Klein, I think something's buried here." Her eyes flashed. "We've kept this school's grounds in order since 1957. There's nothing under there but dirt and pipe." But Nathan noticed the way her hand trembled as she clutched the clipboard to her chest. A flicker of unease passed over her face before she smoothed it away. He didn't push her then. Not yet. The digging started at 3 o'clock. A maintenance crew came reluctantly with shovels, the metal biting into dry earth. The children pressed against classroom windows, wide-eyed, whispering. Teachers tried to pull the blinds down, but curiosity leaked through every seam. Rook went mad as the shovels clanged. His body strained against Carla's leash. He whined between barks, a sound raw with urgency. The first layer was just roots and hard clay. The second, darker. By the third, sweat dripped down the men's faces, and the smell came, something faint, metallic, old. Nathan felt it in his nose before he named it. Rust. Or blood. "Sheriff." One of the men called, pale under the dirt streaking his cheeks. "There's something." A scrape, a hollow thunk. Then silence. They unearthed the box. Wooden, rotted, its edges eaten by time. About the size of a school desk, bound in rusted iron bands. The maintenance men hesitated, unwilling to touch it further. Rook howled. Nathan stepped forward, his boots sinking into loose dirt. His hand hovered over the lid, hesitant. He'd seen coffins before. He'd seen worse. But something about this, sitting beneath a flagpole where children pledged allegiance each morning, tightened his gut. "Sheriff," Carla said softly, "what if—" But the principal's voice sliced through. "That box stays shut." Nathan turned. Her face was ashen, lips bloodless. "You knew," he said, her chin lifted, rigid. "I know what's best for this town. Some things don't need to be dragged into the light." The playground was quiet except for the restless panting of Rook, the restless murmur of children pressing their noses to glass. Nathan crouched in pride at the corroded latch. The smell that rose when the lid cracked was not rust, not soil. It was death. Nathan didn't open it fully. Not yet. Just enough of the truth to leak like a toxin into the air. A scrap of fabric. A bone-white curve of something human, unmistakable even in shadows. Martha Klein staggered back, her clipboard clattering to the ground. "You don't understand," she whispered. Her voice was breaking, brittle as glass. It wasn't supposed to be found. Not ever. Carla's eyes narrowed. "Who's in that box, Martha?" The old woman clutched her arms around herself, as though holding in a lifetime of secrets. And Nathan knew then, this wasn't just a body. This was history clawing its way out of the dirt, and it was going to tear Carver apart. The smell clung to the playground long after the maintenance men backed away. Earthy rot, sharp and acidic, like the breath of something kept too long in the dark. Sheriff Nathan Weller leaned against the edge of the shallow pit, staring at the half-uncovered box, while Rook whined low in his throat. The dog's ears were flat, his body tense, as if ready to fight. "Get the kids inside," Nathan ordered. Teachers hurried the children away, pulling blinds tight. But whispers slipped under cracks, stories that would multiply before sundown. Principal Martha Klein stood rigid, her hands locked behind her back. Her face had the pallor of chalk dust. She looked smaller than she had an hour ago, swallowed by the weight of what she wasn't saying. Nathan crouched again, motioning to Deputy Carla Ruiz. Together they pried the rusted latch until it cracked with sound like bones breaking. The lid groaned as it opened. Inside was not one body, but two. One skeleton, stripped of flesh by time, lay curled on itself. The other, Nathan's stomach tightened. Flesh remained on its frame, shrunken and leathery. A child's shoe clung to a foot bone, cracked leather, the kind once issued in the 1960s. Beneath the remains lay yellowed pages, water damaged but still intact. School reports, attendance sheets, names scrawled in fading ink. Carla swore softly in Spanish. "Dios mío." Nathan straightened, jaw tight. "Martha, who are they?" The principal's lips parted, but no sound came. Her eyes darted to the box, then to the school, then back to Nathan. "You already know," she whispered. By evening, the box sat in the evidence room of the sheriff's office, guarded like a relic no one wanted to touch. The coroner was called in from 2 towns over. The medical examiner from the county wouldn't be available for days. But already the news was spreading through Carver. Phones buzzed. Social media lit up. Parents demanded answers. In the sheriff's office, Nathan poured himself a coffee he didn't want. Carla leaned against a filing cabinet, flipping through the brittle papers salvaged from the box. "They're school records," she said. "Look at this. 1962, 1963. Attendance logs, disciplinary notes, a couple of student essays. But some pages are missing, ripped clean." Nathan rubbed his temples. "And the remains?" "The coroner thinks 1 adult male, 1 child. At least 50 years in the ground. The adult skull was fractured. Could be blunt force. Could be a fall. Too early to tell. And the child..." Carla's voice caught. "We'll need the examiner. But if I had to guess, suffocation. Maybe worse." The office was quiet except for the hum of the vending machine. Nathan looked toward the window, where the street outside was unusually alive for a weekday night. Groups of townsfolk stood clustered under the lamps, whispering, their faces pale ovals in the glow. The whole town already knew something had been found. They didn't know what, but they sensed it was bad. "Sheriff," Carla said, "Martha Klein knew. You saw her." "I saw," Nathan muttered, but knowing and admitting aren't the same. The next morning, Nathan visited Martha at her house. The principal lived alone in a narrow 2-story on Maple Street, the kind of place that still smelled faintly of mothballs and old books. Lace curtains, photographs of school ceremonies lined up in perfect order along the hallway walls. She answered the door as if she'd been waiting. Her hair was undone, her face bare of its usual mask of makeup. She looked decades older. "You shouldn't have opened it," she said quietly. "I had no choice." Nathan stepped inside without asking. The house was too neat. everything positioned just so. He noticed the absence of family photos. No children, no husband, only school children, year after year, smiling in their class portraits. "You do have a choice now," she said, lowering herself into an armchair. "Bury it again. Close it off. Say it was nothing. That would be mercy, Sheriff. For the town. For you. That's not how this works." Nathan kept his voice steady. "That's not how truth works." Her eyes glistened with something between fury and despair. "Truth doesn't set people free, Nathan. It ruins them. It ruined me a long time ago. And if you drag this out, it'll ruin you too." He leaned forward. "Who were they, Martha?" Her fingers clutched the armrest so tightly her knuckles blanched. For a moment, he thought she'd tell him. But then her jaw tightened and she shook her head. "You'll see soon enough." Back at the station, Carla greeted him with news. "I matched one of the attendance sheets to the archives. A student named Daniel Keats. He disappeared in 1963. Police report filed, but the case was sealed." "Sealed." Nathan frowned. "By who?" "Judge Martin Keats," Carla said. "The boy's father." Nathan swore under his breath. Martin Keats had been a giant in this county. Judge, philanthropist, the man whose name still adorned the courthouse downtown. He died in 1987, buried with full honors. "And the adult?" Nathan asked. "Not sure yet, but look at this." Carla slid a paper across the desk. An essay written in childish scrawl, signed Daniel Keats, grade 5. The title, "What I Fear Most." The essay rambled about shadows and hallways, strange noises at night, a man who lingered by the flagpole after dark. The last line sent a chill through Nathan. "I fear he'll find me again." That night, Nathan dreamed of the box. He dreamed of rook clawing at the earth, of children whispering in the hallways, of a hand pressing down over a child's mouth until the world went dark. He woke at 3 a.m. drenched in sweat, the dog's bark echoing in his ears. By morning, the town was restless. Parents demanded answers, threatening to pull their children from Carver Elementary. The school board convened an emergency meeting. Reporters gathered on the courthouse steps, and someone had broken into the sheriff's office. The lock on the evidence room was mangled, papers strewn across the floor. The box remained, but its contents were disturbed. The child's shoe was gone. Carla found Nathan pacing the room, fists clenched. "It's someone local," he said. "Someone who knew what we found. Someone who doesn't want the truth out. Or someone who already knows it," Carla added. Her gaze lingered on the missing shoe. A trophy, or a warning. That evening, Nathan confronted Martha again. She was standing in the schoolyard this time, staring up at the empty flagpole under the wash's streetlight. The wind tugged at her coat. "You should have left it buried," she whispered without turning. "Someone broke into my office," Nathan said. "They stole from the evidence box. That means this isn't just history, Martha. It's alive. It's moving. And I need to know why." She closed her eyes, a single tear streaking her cheek. "Because I put him there." Nathan froze. "The man or the boy?" Her voice cracked. "Both." She told him fragments, halting, like pulling barbs from skin. A night in 1963. A storm that rattled the school windows. A boy who didn't go home. A man who shouldn't have been there. A struggle, a scream cut short. And Martha, only a young teacher then, holding the truth in her trembling hands. "They told me to stay quiet," she said. "They told me if I loved this town, I'd keep its honor intact. Judge Keats himself came to me. He said the boy was better off forgotten, the man better off gone. So we buried them under the flag, and every morning children saluted that pole, never knowing what lay beneath." Nathan's throat was dry. Who was the man? Her eyes glistened in the lamplight. His uncle, Judge Keats's own brother. Nathan staggered back, the pieces falling in jagged shapes. Judge Keats, the town's pillar, had buried his own brother and his son, and Martha had carried the secret for 60 years. Carla's words echoed in his mind, or someone who already knows it. The missing shoe, the break-in. Someone was keeping the secret alive, fighting to bury it again. But why? Nathan stared at the flagpole, its shadow slicing across the dirt. He realized this wasn't just about history. It was about power. Someone had inherited the secret and was willing to kill for it again. The sheriff's office buzzed like a hornet's nest. Phones rang off their hooks. Reporters hammered on the doors. The town of Carver was splitting open, gossip spreading faster than Nathan could contain it. Inside, the evidence box sat like a coffin in the middle of his desk. What remained of its contents had been cataloged, sealed, guarded, except for the missing shoe. That piece gnawed at him. Proof the past wasn't content to stay buried. Deputy Carla Ruiz stood by the window, arms folded, watching the crowd gather outside. "We need to move fast, Sheriff. Someone's already covering tracks. And if Martha is telling the truth about Judge Keats, people are going to lose their minds." Nathan didn't answer. His eyes lingered on the paper spread before him. The fragile essay of Daniel Keats, the cracked handwriting that seemed to whisper across decades. "I fear he'll find me again." Someone broke in, he said finally. Not for money, not for evidence that could clear them. They wanted a trophy. Or leverage, Carla said. That shoe could mean something to whoever's keeping the secret. A reminder they're still in control. Nathan rubbed the back of his neck. The Keats family has influence even now. Martin Keats's daughter lives here, married into the Benson family. Her husband sits on the school board. Carla stiffened. David Benson? Nathan nodded. David Benson, wealthy, smiling, the kind of man whose handshake lingered too long. He was the one pushing hardest to shut down the investigation. Nathan had seen it in the emergency meeting. The way Benson leaned in, his words polished but urgent. "It'll destroy what's left of this town's dignity, Sheriff. Let the dead rest." That evening, Nathan drove out to the Benson estate. The house sat at the edge of town, a colonial brick mansion with trimmed hedges and iron gates. Wealth here wasn't subtle. It bled from every shingle. David Benson greeted him on the porch with a drink in hand. "Sheriff," he said smoothly, "to what do I owe the pleasure?" "We need to talk," Nathan said. His tone left no room for refusal. Inside, the house smelled of expensive polish and aged scotch. A fire crackled in the stone hearth. Benson gestured toward a leather chair, but Nathan remained standing. "You know why I'm here," he said. Benson smiled, but his eyes sharpened. "The box. You knew about it." "Everyone old enough to matter in this town knew something," Benson said calmly. "But I'm guessing Martha finally broke. That woman carried too much for too long." Nathan's fist clenched. "Someone broke into my office. Took something from the evidence box. A child's shoe." For the first time, Benson's expression flickered. He swirled his drink. "Shoes don't matter, Sheriff. What matters is what people choose to believe. And if you push this too far, you'll destroy a lot more than your career. You'll destroy families, reputations, our town's legacy." "Legacy built on a grave," Nathan shot back. Benson's smile thinned. "That grave made this town possible. My wife's father, your so-called pillar of justice, he buried his sins so Carver could rise. You think you're the first man to weigh truth against survival? Don't flatter yourself. Some burdens aren't meant to be lifted." Nathan stepped closer, his voice low. "Where's the shoe, David?" Benson's eyes hardened. "You don't want to know." When Nathan left, he didn't have proof, but he had certainty. Benson had the shoe, or knew who did. And more than that, he had motive. Protect his family's name, the Keats legacy. Back at the station, Carla was waiting with bad news. "Martha's gone," she said. "What do you mean, gone?" "She didn't show up at home. Neighbors say she left last night. Her car's missing." Carla's eyes met his. "I think someone silenced her." Nathan felt a cold weight settle in his chest. He thought of Martha at the flagpole, her trembling confession. "I put him there." The burden had finally cracked her, and now someone had decided she was too dangerous. But if Martha was gone, who else knew enough to speak? 2 days later, they found Martha. Her car was pulled from the river, windows shattered, her body still strapped to the seat. The medical examiner called it an accident, but Nathan saw the bruises on her wrists, the absence of skid marks on the bridge. Murder. Clean, efficient, and already buried under paperwork. At the funeral, townsfolk wept openly. They called Martha a saint, a woman who dedicated her life to children. No one mentioned the box or the bodies beneath the flagpole. No one dared. Nathan stood at the back with Carla, his jaw locked, his hands trembling in his coat pockets. Rook sat at his side, ears flat, whimpering low. The dog seemed to understand. "She died carrying their sins," Carla murmured. "No," Nathan said quietly. "She died because I let her carry them alone." That night, Nathan sat in his office, staring at the evidence box, the papers, the bones, the weight of 60 years. He thought of the Keats family, of David Benson smiling in his mansion, of the way the town would rather choke on silence than breathe truth. Carla came in, her face pale with exhaustion. She set something on the desk. It was a shoe. Nathan stared. "Where did you—" "Found in Benson's shed," she said, "buried under paint cans. I didn't have a warrant, so it won't hold in court, but it's enough for me." Nathan felt a surge of rage and relief, tangled so tightly it hurt. He killed Martha. Carla hesitated. Maybe someone else in that family. But if you go after him without ironclad proof, they'll bury you like they buried her. And this time, I won't be able to dig you out. Silence stretched between them, the hum of the lights. Rook's steady breathing. Finally, Nathan whispered, "Then what do we do?" The answer came not with fury, but with quiet resolve. The next morning, Nathan carried the box to the old flagpole. The playground was empty, dew clinging to the grass, the air heavy with silence. He lowered the box into the hole, not to hide it again, but to return it where it belonged. Then he covered it with a simple marker, unpolished stone, carved only with the words, "Here lies the truth. May it never be silenced again." He knew the town wouldn't thank him. They'd curse him. They'd pretend not to see. But the children who grew up here would know. They'd walk past the flagpole and wonder. They'd ask questions. And maybe one day they'd demand answers. Carla stood beside him, her hand brushing his arm. "You really think they'll face it?" she asked. "No," Nathan said. His voice was raw. "But at least they won't forget." That night, Nathan sat on his porch with Rook at his feet. The town was quiet, lights glowing in neat rows, families tucked behind curtains of willful ignorance. He thought of Martha, of Daniel Keats, of the uncle whose violence had been buried under patriotism and pride. And he thought of Benson, sitting smug in his mansion, untouchable for now. But time had a way of turning even stone to dust. Nathan reached down, stroking the dog's fur. Rook lifted his head, ears twitching, eyes locked on the horizon. The flagpole's shadow stretched long across the schoolyard even from here. For the first time in weeks, Nathan let out a breath that didn't feel like glass in his throat. The truth was out, not clean, not finished, but out. And though it hadn't rewritten history the way he hoped, it had left a scar deep enough to be remembered. In the end, that was all he could give them, a scar that would never fade.